folks, let's take a look at how to add and subtract fractions. And we're gonna start this section or this lecture by looking at adding and subtracting fractions where we have numbers in the denominator. And then we're gonna bump up and add and subtract fractions where we have variables in the denominator. And we're gonna start by adding and subtracting expressions, rational expressions. And again, you see the word ratio, so this is code for there's a fraction in there. So we're gonna add and subtract fractions with common denominators. And this is the key thing. You have to have common denominators to add and subtract fractions. And then we're gonna crank it up a little bit in that we're gonna have fractions without common denominators. We're gonna have to find least common denominators and then we'll be able to add them. So here's the rule. If you have common denominators, right, you can see here's one fraction, a over c, here's a second fraction, b over c. But you can kind of hear that these two fractions have the same denominator, right? They have a denominator in common. So the rule is if you have common denominators, right, all you have to do is then just add the numerators, right? And the same thing over here. If you have two fractions with common denominators but they're being subtracted, then keep that common denominator and subtract the numerator. All right, and this will play itself out, this idea that if you have common denominators, keep the denominator, add the numerators, or if you're subtracting fractions with common denominators, keep the denominator, subtract the numerators. That'll play itself out with numbers and with letters, but let's take a look at it first with just the numbers. So if I'm asked to add 7 over 16 plus 8 over 16, I can see that I have two fractions and they have the same denominator. Those denominators are common, so I'm good to go. So what I do is I'll put the little equal sign there. I'll keep that denominator of 16, and then I will literally add the numerators. So I'll just do 7 plus 8 over 16, right? And then 7 plus 8 is commonly known as 15. We got 15 over 16, and that's it. That's my answer. And similarly over here, I'm subtracting. You can see the operation, the linear operation went from addition to subtraction, but it's the same idea. I'll put the equal sign here, and there's not a whole lot I have to do because these denominators are already common. So I will keep the denominator and I will do the numerators with 7 minus 8. And I'm going to mention this now because it's going to play itself out later. I want to distribute this subtraction to the entire numerator. And for example 1b, it's just a monomial up there, right? It's just one term, right? It's a single number. But if we have a binomial, which we will in later examples, you have to remember to distribute this subtraction to the entire numerator. All right, and there might be some distribution in there. So I mention it now because it'll get a little bit trickier later. All right, 7 minus 8, I'm just going to write that as negative 1 over 16. And just remind you that this negative 1/16, you can write it with the negative in the numerator, or you can write it with the negative symbol out in front of the fraction. These are the same fraction, two different ways of writing it up. All right, so we're going to do this a little bit more, well, a lot bit more, and we're going to start adding variables into our denominators. Okay, see you in a bit. Bye.